Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Kari Schwear to the podcast. She's an executive lifestyle coach specializing in many gray areas of our lives, particularly the gray area of drinking. And we're going to dig into this. I wasn't even sure what that meant when we recorded, but Kari was a former gray area drinker. She is the founder of Gray Tonic and questioned the drink movement in 2018. She has her own experience in living in the gray area that she now uses to help other people. She coaches individuals and groups. She is a board certified breathwork facilitator, and she's a best-selling author. She's co-authored 2 books, The Successful Mind, Tools for Living a Purposeful, Productive, and Happy Life, and Limitless, a Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller. Kari, welcome to the podcast. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious, for people ready to explore their true potential. I'm your host, Annie Randall. Join me and let's get ready to go on this journey together. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. You're in for such a treat today. I have Kari Schwear with me today. She is a lifestyle executive coach that really specializes in something called the gray area. And before I met Kari, I didn't know a lot about this, and I've learned so much from her and excited for her to share. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you and your listeners today.
Well, we talked about the gray area, and I know that's what you really specialize. Explain that to the audience and then your connection with it.
Yeah. So the gray areas that we have in life, there's so many. There's so many gray areas. We can have a gray area with our habits, with our health, with our relationships, with our career. And it's any place that you know something's going on, but you aren't ready to deal with it. You keep shoving it under the rug. So that deals with a lot of the gray areas in general that we have. But my gray area started with gray area drinking. And gray area drinking, by definition, is the space between someone who is a light, take it or leave it, social drinker and somebody who is severely abusing alcohol. It's that in between space, which is about 50% of the population that consumes alcohol, maybe in this gray area. So it's a huge number. Matter of fact, Annie, there was a report that came out last year, a study that 75 million Americans identify as a gray area drinker. And here's the thing, many people have never even heard the term, so don't even know what it means. And so if we had 75 million already identify, the number is higher than that because we have an epidemic in our country that alcohol is everywhere, it's acceptable everywhere, and it's almost expected for the most part in a lot of places. So we have a bigger issue on hand than we'd like to admit.
Wow. I never imagined actually that the numbers were that big, but now that you say it, it is just such a part of everyday life and so accepted. How did you get into this work? Was that something that you previously struggled with?
Yes, so that is exactly how I got into it. I didn't pursue having my own coaching practice. It literally I felt called by God to do this work after my own experience. So in 2014, I had found myself not in a happy place with my career. You want to talk about a gray area? Whoa, I was completely in a gray area. I was trying different things. I was in the medical field at that time. Um, Also in real estate, and I just was not happy. And there was some things going on in my personal life. My husband and I were moving into a gray area of our relationship. My kids were already out of the house at that point. We became empty nesters within 1 week. One son went off to college, the other one moved in with his then girlfriend, now wife. And all of a sudden, we're empty nesters. So we had a lot of stuff happen life wise all at once. And I ended up turning to alcohol in a way to soothe over how I was feeling about my body, which was another gray area. I mean, I've always been fairly fit and thin, if you will, and worked out quite a bit, but I let myself go, so to speak. I was a way for me to cover up my deep unhappiness when I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't like the woman that I saw staring back at me. My marriage, of course, I mentioned my career. I mentioned I just felt so blah. And alcohol was a way for me to escape from that. And then I stayed in that gray area, that contemplative state of, I feel like something, oh, like there's something tingling inside. There's a seed there that's nagging at me. There's this inner voice that's saying to me, hey, Carrie, I think you're drinking too much. And I just didn't want to admit to it. I kept shoving it under the rug, just like everything else. I wasn't attacking my marriage the way that I wanted to. I was not attacking my body the way I needed to. I just was ignoring it all. And this is such a dangerous place to be because then we end up coasting. And with gray area drinking, for example, if we let that go too long, it can actually turn into something that is no longer a choice. And I'm talking about alcoholism or severe alcohol abuse disorder when you have no chance of turning back, right? I mean, you do, you have a chance of turning back, but you're in a place where it's no longer a choice to drink. And for me, it was still a choice to drink. And that is the biggest differentiator between someone who is in the gray area and somebody who is severely abusing. For them, they have to drink in order to get through the day. They have to drink in order to feel somewhat normal. And I certainly was not there yet. So 2 years later, in 2016, the voices were getting louder. And my husband started saying something to me, and my girlfriend started saying something to me. And I was like, oh boy. Then I had the day. The day came. It was July 4th, 2016. I drank too much. Was at a party all day with friends, came home completely trashed. My older son, I'm sorry, my younger son at the time, who was 22, said, "Wow, mom, you are drunk." And I just spewed back all kinds of words to him, words that no mother should ever say to their child. And he repeated back to me those words the very next day at dinner. And when he did, I immediately started crying. I was so ashamed. I felt like the worst mother in the world. And at that moment, I made the decision I need to do something about this. I did not quit drinking right away, by the way. Took me another 6 weeks, which is very common. So I moved in from a pre contemplation stage to contemplation. And now I moved into the preparation stage. The preparation stage of change is when you're starting to gather information. Like, what does that look like? How am I going to quit? Am I an alcoholic? How much is too much? Do I have to go to AA? Do I need a rehab? Like, I don't even know what I need. So I did all those things. I looked at all my options. I made the conscious decision. The only thing that I knew that was around at that time was the obvious, Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know there was anybody like me that existed. And at the time, there was very few, maybe like two, but I didn't know them at the time. So I went to AA, great program. Highly recommend if someone is looking to question their relationship with alcohol. For me, not a good fit. I wasn't an alcoholic. So I had this huge issue with the identity piece. And by the way, part of my coaching program, a big piece of my coaching program, like 90%, is about changing your frame, your identity on who you believe that you are, because that determines your behavior. So we spent a lot of time on that. Well, I didn't know any of that at the time. So I went through AA for about 5 months, got a sponsor, read the big book, did the 12 steps, great program, 12 steps. Everybody should go through it. Again, wasn't a good fit. Ended up working with a coach. That coach said to me, "I think, Carrie, you're going to start your own business someday. You're going to be a coach because you're taking this so well. You're so coachable. I think you can be a coach someday. And I think you're going to share your story with the world." And I was like, no, no, and hell no, is that going to happen? And little did I know, I was sitting in church a couple months later. They talked about small groups. I was going to start a small group. It didn't work out. The church had a recovery group. They didn't want another group like that. So I left the church over because I was kind of hurt and upset at the time. And my girlfriend said, "Why don't you just start your own thing? Like, why are you letting the church dictate what you should do?" And I was like, yeah, I'll show them. I'll start my own thing. And God just put it on my heart at that time. Like, people need you. People need to hear this message. They need to hear that gray area is a place that is still a choice, and they have the opportunity to do something different. So gray area drinking is what got me started with Gray Tonic and in my coaching practice, but it has since evolved into so many other gray areas as well. But drinking is still the one thing that most people will want me to coach with them on. And then we get through that really quick, like within less than a month, and we're moving on to the real stuff, which is really what's having them drink in the first place. So that's where it's evolved to.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I have several more questions for you now. Um,
Sure.
because we've been talking about this, my husband and I, of just I think we've seen it in ourselves, and two, we see it over and over in other people. Like, if you just don't deal with what's going on inside of you, it comes out in some form on the outside. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I'm sorry, did I cut you off? I wanted
No,
you to
oh, you're
finish.
great.
Oh, okay. We use it as a cover up. And I'm not sure when we'll have this air, but I recently wrote a post about sex after 25 years of marriage, of any long-term relationship. It's completely different. Things change, these are real life conversations, right? Things are different. Men and women are different in their needs, right? I coach a lot of men. I have a lot of male clients, and let me tell you, they're so much fun. But they have different perspectives and different lens in which they view the world as women do. And because I'm a woman, right? And I have a female clients as well, I understand both sides. And this is one of those real life problems. The reason why they're drinking is because they're no longer connected to their spouse in that way. The woman's going, well, he only wants it because he needs it. And the woman's like, I want to be you know, touched in certain ways, or I want to be acknowledged, or maybe their love language isn't touch at all. Maybe it's like gifts or spontaneity things, or going out, or there's other ways to show your loved one those things. So real life problems like intimacy in the bedroom, that's a not a, I want to say a huge one. That is a common problem. But most often it is that the person themselves have lost their passion. They've lost their interest in their own life. They've reached a certain age, whether that's 40, especially 50. Oh my gosh, it's like the light switch goes off, and all of a sudden you turn 50 and you're like, what now? Right. And I'm in my late 50s. So I can attest to this. I turned 50, which was the year, by the way, well, 49 when I quit drinking. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be 50 next year. Like this is the decade, which is the best decade, by the way. But so much changes. And you ask yourself all those internal questions. What's my purpose? Why am I here? Or how much time do I have left? What am I going to do with that time? How can I be better? How can I grow and expand? When can I finally be happy? Do I need to wait till I retire? These are all very common questions. So whether it's again with their marriage, their job, their health, maybe it's a disconnect from God. Maybe there's a spiritual disconnection, which is always a huge piece for a lot of people. I want to say everyone, but for a lot of people it is. And so
Mhm.
you're feeling just lost in the murky waters of confusion. And that is a gray area in itself. So it's a lot of just let's dive into what the truth is. Let's peel back the layers of the onion and let's find the truth of what's holding you back, not what you think it is. Because drinking is just what you think it is, but there's other layers that are there.
Yeah. So good. I just couldn't agree more of there's something a little bit deeper that makes us do the gray area. I would agree that drinking is probably the most prevalent, but we see it a lot. We work in the health field at Orange Theory, and for some people it's eating, for some people it's just not exercising. Even they want to do some of these things, but it just not dealing with the true issue really does get in the way. And you mentioned something else. You mentioned that you heard this little voice, and I think we probably can all attest to this of like, gosh, you need to make a change. And then you just ignore it. And you did that for quite a while. Is that right?
Yes, it was 2 years, and I will tell you, I've asked this question of my clients, like, "How long have you been contemplating this? How long has that voice been whispering to you or nudging you or pointing, just poking the bear, as I like to say? How long has that been going on?" The average is 2 years. 2 years. And I think that that's not a bad thing. But I also want to encourage you, if you're listening right now and this is resonating, that if you are already having those internal voices, am I drinking too much? How much is too much? What is going on in my marriage, in my career, and all those sorts of things? Pay attention to that voice. Don't let it get to a point where you are past the place that is going to be harder to you to come back to. Because right now it's still a choice. I mentioned that post. I had a gentleman from another country, actually, this was on LinkedIn, send me a message. He said, I'm not intimate with my wife right now. I don't know what to do. I don't want a divorce. And my message back to him was, it starts and ends with honesty and truth for yourself, honesty and truth to her, because I guarantee if you're thinking that, she already feels it. Like, you might be thinking it because you're analytical. She might be feeling it because she's the feeler. For most women. Sometimes women are, obviously they could be analytical too, but this is the chemistry between a male and a female. So being honest up front, you can't fix anything if you're not 100% true and honest with yourself. And facts are facts. And I invite you to sit down and write out. This is the first thing I did when I started contemplating my drinking before. No, wait, it was after the July 4th incident. It was the end of July, but before I quit drinking. I was at work. I took a piece of paper right down the middle, pros and cons of drinking. No, it actually said reasons I should stop drinking, or reasons to keep drinking, reasons to stop drinking. That was my headlines at the top. And I wrote down the reasons why I should keep drinking. Wait for it. This is what it looked like. I'll keep my friends. I have fun. I go fun places. Um, what was the other thing on there? It was always about fun and friends. That's all that was on that side of the page. On the other side of the page, reasons why I should stop drinking. The first one I wrote down that spontaneity came out of my head and I wrote it down was, I won't die.
Wow.
And when I wrote that, I started crying in my office. I used to manage a medical practice. I'm sitting in my office and I'm literally streaming tears. And I thought, my God, like, it'll save my life and I won't die. And then I started continuing to write. I'll save money. I won't say or do anything that I will embarrass myself. I can work on my fitness again. I'll have the energy. I'll get better sleep. I'll just feel overall better. My husband will be happier because he's tired of telling me, like, yeah, you're hungover again today, right? Whatever. Like, all that stuff will stop. I won't be so foggy minded. Like, I had a laundry list. It was like 4 times as long as the other side. And just seeing that on paper was a great place for me to start. So I invite you, if you're questioning any area, whether it's your marriage or it's your career or it's your health, and you need reasons, get out a piece of paper and do a pros and cons list. Super easy, but a great place to start because you know what? It's your own truth. No one's saying it but you. So be honest. Just be honest.
When you're saying that, I'm guessing a lot of people, especially when they're thinking gray area drinking, fun, and friends, would go on their keep drinking side too. What was your experience? Did you end up losing friends, having less fun? Were those truths that came about?
Yes. Things did change. They certainly did. We did have a shift in some of our relationships, and that was by design. That was a lot of it was on my part because here's the thing, you get to a place with your relationship with alcohol, and for me that was zero. Now my husband continued to drink for a couple years after I quit. He quit 2 years after I did, and during that time we were still going out with the same people or whatever, and we still hang out with them from time to time. But I realized for the majority of the people in general, like a bigger group of people, the only thing that we had in common was the fact that we liked to drink together. The conversations were not deep, they weren't meaningful, they weren't the type of conversations that I wanna be having today. And I have completely evolved as a human. I'm not saying I'm better, but what I've done is better than them, but I am better. I've elevated, I've raised my standard on what I will consider, to let into my orbit, into my mind, into my body. Those things have changed. My frame, my identity has changed dramatically from 8 years ago. I'm not that same woman who couldn't look at herself in the mirror. I'm very confident on who I am now. I couldn't say that. I would never be able to be on camera or do a video or run a coaching program or hold, in-person retreats for clients. I would never have the nerve or the courage or the confidence to do those types of things if I wasn't in this position today. And this took a lot of work, but it took being in the right proximity of people to be around those that uplift me. And that's what I've chosen to do over the past several years is my life is still massively fun. It's just a different type of fun. It's more meaningful. I do fun things outdoors, nature. We go hiking, we go rock climbing, indoor rock climbing, not outdoor. We do all kinds of fun activities, go on vacations. We still will go participate in, I mean, I'll even go to a winery with my friends if that's what they want to do. But of course, I'm not drinking, right? I'll bring my own stuff. There's so many options available out there, and there's so many things that we can be doing. And I think when we start to look at what we can do versus what we can't do, then we open ourselves up. It changes our brain state too. When we're searching for what works and what you can do, it eliminates the things that you can't. And that gives you momentum and it gives you excitement to continue forward. And that would be my advice for anybody. Because you know what? Everyone has a hang up in the beginning, like, oh, how am I going to socialize? My friends are going to, what are they going to think about me? Who cares? Because you know what? If they say something to you about your drinking, I promise you, I promise you, it is about their drinking. Has nothing to do with you because the people who are confident with their own relation with alcohol that don't have an issue, that are not in a gray area at all, would never say to you, oh, come on, you can just have one, right? What do you mean you're not drinking? What? You're no fun. They would never say that. They'd be like, you know what? Good for you. That's awesome, man. That's awesome, girl. Way to go. They'd be so excited for you, especially in the fitness field, which I know you are in also. I love it. It's like it cracks me up on how many people use alcohol on a very consistent basis. It's like they work hard, they eat the right foods, they fuel themselves well, they work out so hardcore, and then they go pound drinks on the weekend. It doesn't make any sense. It's not congruent with the lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I think there's some incongruency there, and that can cause us to battle inside of our mind, which is called cognitive dissonance, by the way. And that creates a disconnect for us between ourselves, that contract between ourselves, and that starts to ding us, and that causes more issues. And that's the trickle down effect to other gray areas that one might have in their life.
Yeah. I can relate, not necessarily the gray area of drinking, but I think we've all been at that stage where you know you're not living true to yourself for some reason. And you just have that feeling like I need to make that change. This episode is all about gut health. And I wanted to share with you what I personally do for gut health. I put my protocol in the show notes because I believe in it. It's really helped me not only sleep better, but my skin cleared up, my digestion was better. All around, I felt better. So check it out. The link is in the show notes. I love it because you have a framework for people to do this. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's the decide model, and the decide model it's in several variations. I have a free 7-day video email sequence that I would love for you to sign up for. It's so easy. You'll get an email from me every day. It's a video and a little bit of an action item for you to work on. But this is the decide series. I'll take you through it. It's super easy. It's an easy framework, but it's work, right? We have to work through these steps. So the first D stands for desire to make a change. And desire is the catalyst of all change. You have to have the strong desire, but you need more, right? You need more than just a desire. I mean, desire is could be like, I want it, but there has to be more. So we move on to the E. The E in decide is exploring your why. Oh, and if there's one thing that I want to hone in on is you have to know the reason why you want to do this. Going back to my pros and cons list. When I saw those reasons on the list, that that really oh man, that just turned the screw in and locked me in. That's your guiding north. That's your anchor. That is the thing that you're going to come back to when you get tempted down the road because you will. Something's going to come up, life will happen, it'll throw you back off. So if that exploring your why and finding the root core, what is most important to you, and oftentimes it's health or relationships. It's one of those two things. Sometimes it's money, but most often it has to do with the relationship that you're currently in or want to have, or it's with your body and there's something going on with your health. It's usually one of those two things, but it could be others. But and there could be many. For me, I had a ton. For most of my clients, there's quite a few on that list. So exploring your why, it's called exploring for a reason. You got to dive deep. You got to go 5 layers deep. The C in the decide model is a commitment to self. You have to be 100% committed. Committed 100%, not 98%. If it's 98%, you're going to slip through the back door. It has to be all in. Be willing to play all in. That means investing in yourself with time and resources and do whatever you need to do to make that happen. That means you're showing up for yourself every day doing this work. You're getting up early, you're reading, you're praying, you're meditating, you're doing daily habits that are going to help you, but you have to be committed to a new identity, which is the I and the decide model, having an identity shift. When you are willing to see that this old self of yours cannot be the version that you want. So, what does that new version look like? Get a hold of what that feels like. You want to be a non drinker? What does a non drinker do? How does a non drinker think? How does a non drinker feel? You want to be super fit with muscles and feel really good about yourself? What does that person do? How does that version of yourself? What does that feel like for you to be in that space, right? So taking on and borrowing the identity until you move into it, but be willing to have that identity shift. The second D in the decide model is daily habits. I alluded to it already, but your daily habits dictate and are easily seen by everyone else. It is the fruit in which you produce. So if you are getting up and you're getting to work on yourself first thing in the morning, you're sleeping well, you're working out, you're eating good for yourself, you're eating clean foods, you are spending time with the right people, you're educating yourself, you're getting some knowledge in every day, you're listening to things that edify you, that build you up, that make you feel really good. You pray, whatever that looks like for you. You do these types of daily habits that strengthen you, you become like armor. I always say to my clients, like, it's like you're putting on a new suit of armor when you do your daily habits so you can repel all the things that come against you throughout the day. And when you get into that mindset, you can handle anything. So daily habits is huge. The last E is executing with everyday effort. When you have effort, even if it's 2 minutes, so if you don't have time for a 30-minute workout or an hour workout, you got 2 minutes to do some jumping jacks. You got some sort of effort in you to pull it off, right? So this is everyday effort and consistency. So it's executing every day, doing something to move the needle forward. And when you put all those into play, and that's the crux of my program, when we do this consistently and we're looking at, then we dissect it down even farther when you're coaching with me directly. It's like, what are the business goals that you have? What is the relationship goals? What is your body goals and your fitness? What about your mind expansion with your mind? It's the habit is one thing, right? Habits we can create, we can break, we can create new ones. It is, what are those next step, bigger overarching things that we need to be looking at that make up the whole version of you. And then you slowly become that identity that you said you wanted in the beginning. And that's the decide model.
Oh my gosh, Carrie, that resonates so much with me. I was taking notes while you were talking,
Oh,
just
thank you.
because I couldn't agree more of just deciding the person, knowing your why, having the habits. I love how you put it all together. I've never heard anyone do it like that. And I think that's just so powerful when you want to make a change. I can see, I'm guessing you've had a lot of clients go through there and that be really powerful to work for them.
Yeah, and it's funny because while I'm working with somebody, I'm not saying, okay, today we're going to work on the E. We're already automatically doing it. We're revisiting. And one of the things that I like to say often is it's so much about intentions. It's about setting daily intentions for yourself. And if there's one thing that I would love the listener to walk away with today is, when you are intentional with your time and your actions and your mind and your spirit and your body and everything, and you do this every single night before you go to bed, I encourage you to take out a piece of paper, a journal, do it on your phone, I don't care, whatever. Write down 3 things that went really well today, your wins. You can bullet point. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to write a whole memoir or anything. Just bullet point. What 3 wins did you have today? Search for them. They're there. You probably have more than 3, but write them down. The next bullet point you're going to write down is your intentions for the next day. And the reason why you want to do this is it's not just looking at your calendar going, okay, well, I have a doctor's appointment, I have a meeting at 10, I got to pick up Susie from soccer practice or whatever. It's more than a to-do list. How do you want to show up? How do you want to feel? How do you want to get those things accomplished? How do you want to turn your light on for that? Like, what's the energy behind the to-do list? Those are the intentional parts. So write down your intentions and then write down 3 things that you're grateful for and go to bed. That's the last thing you do before you go to bed. I promise you, game changer. You wake up in the morning, you grab that notebook again. You don't have to rewrite anything. You're just going to review what you wrote the day before, especially regarding your intentions. You're going to remind yourself once again what it is that you got coming up for the day. So you're prepared, you feel ready, you're excited, you're looking at your gratitude. You maybe have another gratitude. That's maybe when you take time to give thanks to Lord. I give first fruits, I say to the Lord every day. First fruit. He gets my first fruits before anything else. And then I do my intention resetting again and looking at that. So do what works for you. Try it on for size. Go drink a big glass of water, right? Get some movement in. You don't have to go right to your phone and go make the coffee right away, right? Spend time pouring into you first. And when you do that, you wouldn't believe just that little shift, life changing, life changing. So I promise it will help you in your day and your mood and your energy and everything if you just start being intentional.
Yeah, I agree so much. I've done a lot of those things that you have said. One is being intentional. I really started that this
Mhm.
year. The prayer and the water and putting away the phone I had
Yeah.
done before. But the intention I started this year, like looking at my day, saying intentionally, how do I want to show up? What energy do I want to bring? Because I can have a lot of different things going on in a day and really show up in a way that isn't life-giving to people that, like my mind is distracted. I'm there, but I'm not. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. So I love that you say just start with intention. And those are three really, really great practices.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's been a game changer for me in my own life, and I know, and I'll say I'll have a book recommendation for everybody, which is The Miracle Morning. Maybe you've heard of it. It's been around very long time. It's written by Hal Elrod, Elrod, Hal, Hal. My pal Hal, he goes by anyway, he was the first, person that I kind of looked to guru-wise, when I first started down my self-development journey, and I was introduced to the book, The Miracle Morning, and he really goes into depth. He has 7 practices called the Savers, and he really encourages everybody to do these practices in the morning. I'll tell you what those are, that, another acronym here. So the first S is silence. And that could be meditation, that could be prayer, that would be whatever. But these don't have to be in order, by the way. This is just what he recommends in the morning. So silence, prayer time, whatever. The A is affirmations. And I love affirmations or incantations, you can call them. But affirmations are great because what you say, your own words out of your mouth, actually play a huge part in your reality. Call it law of attraction, manifestation, whatever, I don't care, but you are like literally getting it into your unconscious mind when you are repeating over and over again. I am an amazing speaker. I am a great coach. I am a wonderful wife and a wonderful mother. I am somebody who's not easily offended. I mean, there's so many power statements or I am statements that you could be writing down. And when you believe it, oh my gosh, life changing. Another thing, I had a book, not a book, journals. I have years of journals. And everything that I started writing down, affirmation wise, in the beginning of the journal, I would take the first 2 pages and write all my affirmations. So every time I'd open my journal, I would read through those first and then I would continue writing. And I'm telling you, it's unbelievable how many of those I am statements are now a reality. That when I wrote them down, my brain was going, "This is BS. This is not really like this is wishful thinking, Carrie." But no, those things actually came true. So it does work. I promise you. So, silence, affirmation, and affirmations. The V is visualize. So he recommends you visualize your day, and I do this all the time. I visualize even now, like for our interview, I was like, well, how do I want to be for my interview? So part of it's the intentional piece, but I'm seeing it as it's already done. How
Mhm.
have I impact? How have I helped someone, even if it's one person? How do I see that happening? So visualizing is really great. Even long-term stuff. Like, what do you see for your life 6 months, a year from now? The E is exercise. Okay, great. R, we all know that. We all should be exercising. R is reading. Reading something of value every day. You can also actually listen to podcasts. That's very helpful. And the last S is describe, journal, really, which means journal. So that's Hal's book. But I promise you, if you read the book, he goes into it in such a beautiful way, and he has an amazing story. He actually died. He was clinically dead. So he goes over the story about that, how the whole Savers came to be. Fantastic book, highly recommend. Yeah.
Wow. I usually end with their favorite book, but I'm glad we got it now because I haven't read that one. So I
Oh, I have
definitely
I have more favorite books, but that's a really good one.
okay. Well, I'll make sure I link to that. I was taking notes on the Savers model, but just so everybody has that information too.
Yeah.
What advice would you have? Somebody's listening today. They know that voice is there. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
They know they need to make a change, but in any change that we do in life, it's scary. Change is hard. What would you
Mhm.
tell that person?
What's gonna happen if you don't change? You have to
Mhm.
look at the cost of inaction. And I think that's the hardest part for so many people. It's like if I continue down this path and I don't make the change, what are the consequences? What could happen? What would I lose? What would it end up costing me? A relationship, a marriage, a job, my life? I don't know. That seems pretty much worth it to me. And again, this goes back to just listening and being honest. And you know what? That little voice, like I said, I listened to that thing for 2+ years before I took action. And I started telling you earlier, there's a cycle. I don't want to give you all these models. Hopefully, it won't confuse people, but there's stages of change. It's called the trans theoretical model, and we go into pre-contemplation first when we're like, my 2 years, I was like in the pre-contemplation, like, yeah, someday I know I need to deal with that, but today's not it. Then you move into contemplation when you're really starting to hear it and those voices are getting louder and louder. And then you move into preparation, just like I did when I started researching, like, what am I going to do about this drinking thing now, Carrie? You admitted you got some sort of issue. You don't know what it is, but need to do something. That's preparation. Then we move into action. After action, maintenance. Great. Technically, I'm still in maintenance. I'll probably always be in maintenance. And then there's a sixth one, which is relapse. And if you fall into relapse, you just move back to action again. Doesn't matter. We're not talking relapse in terms of addiction here. I'm just saying anything with any change. So if you feel like you are not sure about taking action or not, you have to ask yourself, what would happen if I don't make any change? Am I okay with living with the things that they are? And ask yourself the question, what if what I really want for myself could actually be true for me? What would that feel like? And really let your imagination and your body feel into that. And how would that feel like for you to actually have it? Whatever it is, whether that's having a wonderful body and fitting into your size jeans that you haven't been able to fit into. I don't want to throw out a size because it's different for everybody, right? But for you, whatever that weight, that goal weight is, how would that make you feel to see that on the scale? How about knowing that you don't need to have a drink and you can wake up every day feeling like $1 million and you have so much energy. You don't even know what to do with yourself. You have so much energy. You have more time to do important things like spend time with your family or take a course and learn something. I'm an avid learner. I have more certifications I can tell you just because I have so much time on my hands. And in the evening, I don't watch television. That's boring to me. I'd rather be learning something of value and pouring myself into something that's going to educate me that I can help someone else, right? So, whatever that is for you, imagine how much you could do if you had the freedom and the bondage of whatever's holding you down is gone. Like, I can't even tell you there's so much freedom. It's not just with drinking, it's like getting out of a toxic relationship, right? Or maybe it's out of a toxic career. Oh, gosh, no, thank you. I'll never go back to that lifestyle again. No. It's like, I can't imagine that this would be my life 8 years ago. I couldn't even it wasn't even a blip on the radar, right? But I knew I didn't want what I had at the time. That was enough to make the change. I wasn't going to lose my son. I wasn't going to lose my husband over it.
Yeah.
Nope. Right? Or my life.
I think
So,
that's really helpful just to have those steps because sometimes it feels like, gosh, I've been in this step for a long time. And just to know what other steps there are. And like you said, to be able to visualize, if we just get curious and say, what could this look like? What could this feel like if you just start to dream again? Because I
yeah.
think when you're in that bondage, it holds so tight that sometimes you just can't get out of it. Or
Yes.
feels like you can't.
Well, you know what? It takes a lot of energy too. I want to say this. It takes a ton of energy to hide your truth. Why?
Mhm.
And listen, there are two types of lies. There's commission, which is the obvious lie, blatant lie, flat out, lie. Then there's lies of omission when you conveniently don't say anything. That's still lying. And when you lie to yourself, you will never have the inner peace that you're searching for. You can't. It's not attainable when you have all these lies and resentments and hatred and everything else that pinned up inside. When all that's in there, it just feels so heavy and hard and burdensome. And the moment that you're able to release it, it's like, yeah, I just can't even describe it. It's like driving in fog for the longest time, and all of a sudden the fog's lifted and you can see living color for the first time, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what it looks like? I've been missing this the whole time?" That's what it feels like.
Yeah, so good. I just appreciate you sharing so much because one, your story, and two, on the other side of it, and helping people because I know it takes a lot of courage. I know that it took courage for you. It's going to take courage for the listener. But I really believe when they hear from you, hear what's possible, that one, they don't have to do it alone. I think that gives people what they need to make a change.
Yes, I hope so. I really do, and putting out some really good energy for those that are listening that are contemplating. You're in that stage. I promise you, just take one tiny step forward. Maybe it's just signing up for the free Decide video thing. There's no obligation. You can bounce off the if you don't want to do it. That's fine too. Just start somewhere. Just do something, anything to move yourself in that direction because I promise you once you start going down that path and you see, oh wow, I'm starting to get this, you're going to love it and things are going to be better for you in the long run and your life is going to improve and you're going to expand and you're just going to feel so much different about yourself because right now if you're feeling blah and ma and you just don't like anything about what's going on, this is the only way to make it happen. You need to take one step forward, whatever that is, one tiny little yes for yourself.
And how would people, I know that after hearing from you, they'll want to connect. What is the best way to connect with you and then also to sign up for the Decide model?
Yes, thank you for asking. So the best way how I want people to connect with me is I want to know you. So connect with me on LinkedIn. That is my platform that I'm on mostly. I am on Instagram under Gray Tonic, under Gray_Tonic, and on Facebook under Kari Schwear and Gray Tonic. But if you find me, I'm the only Kari Schwear on social. I'm so easy to find. I love LinkedIn. Send me a message. Tell me that you heard me on Be the Person podcast. And any friend of mine is a friend of mine and I'll want to know you and we'll start a conversation. And that is the best way. Signing up for the Decide video series, you can do that on my website at graytonic.com. It's on the homepage up at the very top. You'll see a little banner. You can click there. It's also in my bio on other platforms too.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I link to all of those in the show notes today. Carrie, thank you so much for being on, for sharing your story, for educating us, because I think a lot of light bulbs probably went on today for listeners and people can have the courage to make change. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to Be the Person podcast. If this resonated with you or you know somebody that needs to hear it, please share it with them. And as always, it would mean the world to me if you would help the podcast grow and give us a 5-star rating. Thanks so much for tuning in today.